A future economy powered by clean hydrogen. Back to the future is how I like to see it. I think that really captures the mood perfectly. Thanks. I really would start by saying that this is the greatest opportunity for the economy of this region in 150 years. It's as big as that. And I think the stakeholder engagement that has taken place in the production and the development of the two reports demonstrates how much interest there is. Nearly 300 people registered to come along today illustrates how much real opportunity there is. And it is the greatest opportunity in 150 years, and it is back to the future. And I think that will be a really important theme that we'll run through today. So thanks to Rachel and her team at Invest for putting together today. Thanks for Paul and his team at AMIC working with Frontier to produce their report. And thanks to Rob and the chair of the Matrix, the Northern Ireland Science Industry Panel, and his work with EY in putting together, it was EY with AMIC and it was Frontier with Rob's Matrix. The energy strategy was launched in December last year. We don't have a lot of time. We've got climate targets, net zero by 2050, but we also have the Climate Change Act now that got royal assent in June. We've got massive targets for 2030. We've got our first carbon budget, and government needs to produce a climate action plan for the first climate budget between now and 2027, during that period of actually reducing carbon. The exciting thing about the energy strategy, if you were to put it in one line, is that we're going to deliver self-sufficiency in affordable, renewable energy. There's an awful lot in that statement. Self-sufficiency means we're going to produce all of our own energy. We're going to stop importing fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are hurting society today. In many ways, you could say that our energy policy in the Western world has failed us. There is an energy cost crisis that we're all suffering right now. And people will die this winter because we cannot afford to heat our homes. That is disgraceful in a modern economy, but it is a reality. And it's because we have been a price taker for 150 years. We powered a massive engineering, manufacturing base in this region back at the turn of the 20th century, and we were a price taker for all the energy that needed, the fossil fuels that needed. We have never been a price maker, and even today, we are still not a price maker. But what the hydrogen economy, what renewable energy provides us the opportunity for is to set the price, the right price for the energy that we produce locally. The biomethane, heart of our rural economy, the geothermal, 39 years ago, a bore well was dug a couple of kilometres underneath Larne, and 80-degree water was produced. What happened since? Nothing, because fossil fuels were so cheap. 39 years, and yet geothermal, we have natural resources. Already, Rachel mentioned the salt caverns under Ellen McGee, potential for long-term seasonal storage of decarbonised energy. We will stop importing fossil fuels. We will stop importing oil and gas and petrol and diesel, and we will pay a fair price for the energy we produce locally. Electrifying lots of things like heat and vehicles. And it's that electrification that leads absolutely naturally and has to lead to the hydrogen ecosystem, because wind has led the way. We've got 1,650 megawatts of installed capacity in wind and solar already. We've led the way in that, albeit for the past half dozen years we haven't had a support scheme, but we are consulting on a support scheme before Christmas this year to look at how we provide the proper bankable projects to pay the right price for the energy we produce locally, and also provide the consumer protection that doesn't exist today. We as consumers are paying far too much for our energy. So with renewable wind and solar leading the way, but mainly wind with 1,650 megawatts of installed capacity. We will add 3 gigawatts of renewable electricity onshore and offshore between now and the beginning of the next decade. And that leads to the automatic need to do something with the wind when it's blowing and we don't have the electrical demand. And we're already leading the way, not just in the amount of wind on our system. That's a great success. It's 47% at the moment over the past 12 months. But we're also leading the way in curtailment. And it's that curtailment when we switch off wind turbines, well, that is silly because we've employed the capital. So the real opportunity is to use that wind even though we don't need it. Part of the answer is batteries, but batteries are only part of the answer. The largest part of the answer is to store the energy when it's produced and when we don't need it for when we do need it. For dealing with what the Germans call Dunkelflaute, for the 2 weeks in January or February when there's no wind and we've got peak electrical demand, then we have stored our energy when we've been able to produce it. And that comes through technologies like electrolysis and other technologies that are being developed in research and innovation here in Greater Belfast and wider Northern Ireland. It is such an exciting time. It is literally back to the future where we will become self-sufficient. We will produce all the energy we need and export the rest. And not just export the energy, but export the technologies and the solutions that we are developing to become self-sufficient for ourselves. The whole world is going to need this. The rest of the island is going to need it. We're ahead of the thinking that is happening in GB, where their focus has been on industrial decarbonisation, whereas our focus has been on, well, actually, we're curtailing wind. So people have said to me in the past, well, sure, an electrolyser is only 55% efficient. Well, actually, when you switch off the wind turbine, it's 0% efficient. So it's sooner be using the wind to produce energy that we can store for the future. And that is where hydrogen comes in. And the science is there now to back it up. And these 2 reports today are really important. And we've already stimulated an early ecosystem locally. Someone was mentioning to me already this morning about a session on the maritime cluster, the green maritime cluster. What a heritage we have in that area. And there was a session yesterday with Artemis, mentioned on the slide. And they're at the forefront. They chose to locate their business here because of the skills, because of the heritage, and because of what we can deliver, because of the strength of the academic base to back up our entrepreneurs, our innovators. And it literally is back to the future. It is like going back. It's not as if we're trying to do something we're not good at. It's deep inside our DNAs. And it's a really exciting time. There's a few other companies mentioned there, and they're only an example of the hydrogen ecosystem that is beginning to develop already in Northern Ireland. And I really hope that you enjoy reading the reports that have been produced, because they start to expand on a lot of what I've just mentioned. Catagen has mentioned some really exciting research and innovation that will put Northern Ireland, continue to put us at the forefront of what's being developed. The Americans and the Chinese and the rest of Europe need these solutions. And then I also mentioned B9 because B9, again, collaboration is a key theme of this, working with many partners, not just Northern Ireland, Irish partners, but partners from across these islands to deliver the first initial demonstrators of long duration energy storage. And it's all linked to the real potential of a clean, green future with green hydrogen. So I'm going to hand over now. Rachel's going to introduce Ed, who works with me, and Ed's going to provide some important policy context of what's happening in our near neighbours on the island and across the water and across the EU. And I really do hope you have a brilliant morning and you go away enthused, because the future economic opportunity is in this room today. Thank you.